Gentlemen, you're welcome to the show. Oscar Ssemujju is late. We'll start with Sankara, a freelance journalist, but also a researcher.
You can just call me Thomas on the okay. Do what you prefer.
No, you told him to call you Sankara.
Sankara
now
works. I like the Sankara, but then you should ask why are we calling you Sankara?
Let's start with you.
Yes.
He's a freelance journalist, but based in Uganda here. So can we start with you on South Africa?
Of course.
Bring us to speed.
I've been ready.
Yeah, bring us to speed. Do we have all the results now?
We have.
What are the milestones? What does Uganda learn from South African elections?
Now.
Yes.
Yeah, so the result came out more or less yesterday, and it's almost the final result. 95% of the voters have expressed their votes, and so the results are interesting because for the first time the ANC is losing control. They don't have the usual 50% of the vote plus one that allows them to take decisions and lead the governance, right? So South Africa is a country that is divided into provinces, and those provinces are quite rich, so getting the control of the provinces is important. And then what we observe in South Africa right now is the situations where election has happened, they overthrown a government, but yet they're still at the center of power, and they will be leading the coalitions race. So parties are meeting each other behind closed doors right now, and they try to negotiate what is the future. The previous president, Jacob Zuma, that used to make a lot of headlines all around Africa for his comments and his pride of Zuluness and South Africanness, has led the elections in his province, in KwaZulu-Natal, for the first time. This is a new party in South African politics, and they came out first in the province, most probably going to lead a province for the very first time, which shows the importance and the fragmentation of votes in South Africa right now.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry I'm a little bit late. And
apologize to our listeners.
Yes, I have apologized. It's great to be on the show. You've had the introduction of Thomas. So it is a tragedy when a former president of a country, former member of a party, leaves his own party to form another one.
Yeah, but the name of the party is telling you a lot, because the name is Constituency Zizwe. Sorry for the Zulu listeners that might understand my accent is not as great. But what it means is the spear of the nation, right? And so the spear of the nation was the arm wing that Nelson Mandela initiated in the 50s in South Africa. So by many measurements, the MK has been part of the liberation journey from the first days of South Africans democracy, and it comes out as a really it's a name that stands in the history of South Africa. So it's newcomers, but yet they also make a party to say to the ANC they are serious about what they want and the agenda that they want, but they don't want to work with Ramaphosa. So they already have announced that they're willing to work with the ANC, but not with Ramaphosa, the current president.
But you could say it's greed on their behalf. I mean, they had their power, they had their everything. Their president was convicted. Why come back again?
It's interesting we can think about greed, but we can think also about how lucky South Africans are to be in a democracy where opposition forces can still exist, make 10, 12% of the voters, and yet exist on a national level, and they don't need to go to rebellions, they don't need to go to other party to exist. South African allow opposition's party to exist within parliament. They give money for this type of things, and today South Africans have decided to break the ANC rule. I mean, last week they decided to break the ANC rule, and by breaking these rules, they allow new actors to come in, and those people can live outside of democracy. They don't have to go and get corrupted. They don't have to go and try to get tenders here and there. They can live by simply being opposition to the government. And I think that's a chance South Africa has, and democracy should be... It's interesting for Ugandans to look at this.
Here in Uganda, we've been romanticizing about EFF, Julius Malema, the man who speaks even angrier than Ssemujju here. But it looks like South Africans don't like him much.
No, so the EFF are unfortunately not growing anymore. They're stuck at 10%. Many people in South Africa have told me that the comments of Malema has been really wrongly taken. And one of his comments was to say he has an open border policy. So he stated that all blacks are Africans in Africa, and they can come and visit South Africa whenever they want and without visa, such as what Kagame has done already in Rwanda. But South African voters didn't like that comment, thinking that he's going to do more for foreigners than for locals. What South African voters sometimes forget is that South Africa is a gigantic country, and if the US cannot control their borders with Mexico, why would South Africa control its border with Zimbabwe? I was interviewing someone last year, 8 years old woman that managed to enter South Africa with 20 rand, which is like maybe 10,000 shillings. It's easy to enter South Africa from outside because the borders are too big, and South Africa will never be able to fully control its borders. Malema has had the luck and the chance to say the truth to South Africa and saying that rather than kicking them out, let's welcome them, rather than saying we don't want you, let's say we want you, because at the end of the day, they come the way they want. They come the way they want, including Ugandans that are really famous in Johannesburg and Cape Town for being the border that side of the delivery works.
Yeah. Okay, so what way forward for ANC then? Who can they work with?
Now they're moving to coalitions, so they're looking for parties that are willing to work with them. The MK that has 10% would be a perfect ally, the new party of Jacob Zuma, previous president, but he doesn't want to work with the current president. So there is a bit of a battle here. We don't know yet which party is going to enter coalitions. But once again, like the fact that a dominant party for 25 years to 30 years of national politics is willing to sit with other political parties to form a coalition is a good evidence that democracy can function in the African context.
You don't have an option. But the rules say that you must have a government in 12 days. So it has to happen soon.
It's new for everyone in South Africa. No one in South Africa have ever done this type of politics. It's all new. The people of the ANC, they arrived in power in 1994. So they are in power since 1994, and for the first time they have to share at the National Assembly, but they have the experience of provincial level, where at provincial level it's not always the ANC ruling. For instance, the Western Cape, which is the richest province of South Africa that hosts Cape Town, has a similar GDP than DRC, for instance, right? So this is a big stronghold of the opposition, and the opposition have had it since almost like 15 years now, 20 years. So the South Africans know how to engage in local politics with different parties, but we don't know yet how it's going to play at national level in parliament itself. We need to remember that for the first 20 years of power, the ANC was able to rewrite the constitution whenever they wanted. And they didn't do it so much often, especially on the land questions. They never rewrite like the land question, or never rewrite any lands politics. So they have decided to keep the constitution intact, to go to coalitions politics. Now it's coalition politics. I feel like every Democrat in the African continent interested into what can democracy bring to me, what can democracy do that the current regime hasn't done, should look at the result and should look at how those people decide to work together, make coalitions, and deliver to their citizens.
Let's go to Ofonopono here, the man of geopolitics. Finally, the ANC has come down a notch. Ssemujju sometimes says ANC, then he confuses it with NRM. So, if you've been in power too long, they've had issues of criminality. In recent times, electricity has been a big challenge for them. So it is understandable why people can turn away from the ANC.
Well, thank you, Oscar. Of course, we, the NRM people, have been saying ANC is a fraternal party to the NRM. I hope we can still brag about that. And I hope the lesson of the ANC coming down, NRM is going to peer into it and say, what can we learn? I've been writing that looking at the trend of NRM, we could as well end like Kano, end like UNIP of Zambia, and now ANC. Yes, the longevity of a party and a leader engenders its own complications, particularly complacency. Complacency on many fronts. You don't change leaders. So when you bring them, there is no qualitative change. You may change leaders, but there is no quality. Also, in terms of policy focus and implementation, you don't do as much. You begin to slide in the public service delivery, especially if you raise the expectation. The ANC raised a lot of expectation. Many South Africans, after years of apartheid, expected miracles to happen, especially in the two fronts, the land question and socioeconomic issues. People thought that the ANC will rewrite the land question and give land back to blacks. The ANC failed to do that. The ANC failed to take back the economy into the hands of the black people, except a few elites, like the president himself, Cyril Ramaphosa, became among the richest black people, the richest man in South Africa and so on. Second,
Motsipe is number one.
Out of patronage. So, and the decline of ANC hasn't been abrupt. It has been coming down gradually.
This is true. Election after election, 2 or 3%.
Election after election, they have been coming down. But for some reason, they did not notice the changes, what people were grieving about, and they failed to make corrective measures. The latest, as all of us know, South Africa now became a dark country, a country where load shedding became the norm. And they are not like Uganda. In Uganda, if you do load shedding, majority of the population will not notice because we are not on the national grid. We rely on firewood.
You're proud of that?
No, I'm not proud of what I'm saying. I'm saying Ugandan economy. We rely on firewood. We rely on our own water. We rely on our own building. We don't rent. Majority of Ugandans don't rent. Majority of Ugandans don't rely on national water. So even if national water breaks down, the majority will not complain that much, because we go to the spring well, we go to the borehole.
But if there's no water in Cape Town, trouble.
Yes. Now in South Africa or Kenya, if there is no electricity for a day, all the things you are put in the fridge will rot. Your farm will not function. But in Uganda, the farms will function, even when national water breaks down. So, if you fail to address those issues, you are going to have trouble with the population. You are going to have trouble with the voters. Similar to the NRM. You have seen the complaint. The NRM vote has been declining. The NRM vote has not just been declining in the country, but it has also been declining by regions that were hitherto stronghold. And for some reason, we seem not to be responding. You have seen we lost to Buganda, we lost to Busoga. Yes, we lost to Busoga and Buganda. We gained the Acholi, Teso, Lango, but those places don't have the same number of votes as, for example, Wakiso, Mukono. Now, if you lose Mukono combines the entire Teso. If you lose Busoga votes combine Lango and Acholi votes. So we are in a peril. So the ANC failed to detect that. But also, for me, in this particular election, we may be focusing on ANC, but I think the question of the EAF, the ones who have been saying they are the youth. How come the youths in South Africa did not vote for a youthful
thing to speak of the EFF in here in Uganda, because it's really similar to what's happening with Bobby Wine.
Yes. Because this aggressive attitude of the young people, I think the people of South Africa have said, no, please, you cannot take us down that path of anarchy. And so I hope the young people in Uganda who have been trying to copy Julius Balama and
Economic Freedom Fighter.
Yes. And
their red color.
Yes, are going to. You can see the indiscipline they had in Parliament. They have been having in their Parliament. How can you have young people in Parliament who think that the only way to deal with a bad president or a bad party is physical confrontation all the time? And so I hope it's going to mirror back on our young people in Uganda, particularly these guys who have NOP. You remember my colleague who's facing me. He has been priding he can stand on the table in Parliament and throw microphones at people. I hope.
I've never thrown a microphone at you.
I'm not referring to you.
Okay.
But although the guilty are always afraid. So I hope NRM.
Lessons to learn.
I hope NRM, which is saying is a fraternal party, and indeed the ANC is our fraternal party because they're a revolutionary party. I hope.
Thank you,
we are going to take.
Let's go to Martin Bahinduka Mugara, Minister, who is on gang as an NRM member. So I didn't invite him as a minister. I invited him as NRM. You know, these days I can't trust OO.
No, actually, you should trust me because I am.
I
am among the few standing on the actual NRM ideals.
No, not when I trust you.
Of open and constructive criticism when you are genuine.
I didn't mean that trust. I meant that because you're a busy man, sometimes you go away.
NRM ideals is
but
thank you,
Martin.
No. Do you even still remember
Martin on microphone. Martin, it's you on microphone.
Thank you.
Actually, the only
thank you.
And shifting it.
You're heckling without a microphone, so let Martin speak first.
Thank you, Oscar. And it's good you've come and saved us from Ssemujju. The beginning was already bad.
No, I listened in. It was okay.
As a moderator. But like the others have said, I think we all expected this outcome out of the South African election.
But I think for ANC to get less than 50%?
Yes, because MK really is part of the ANC. So they took a big vote of it. Probably if there was no division, they could have hit the 50% or something. So we saw this coming. But I think what matters the most are the lessons we learn out of this. And OO try to speak to them. And sometimes it's good to be objective, really. One of the biggest challenges, I have lived in South Africa for some time. My last experience there was bad because of crime. I don't want to say what happened.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges NC has had over the years, first of all, is corruption. It is a big issue that does not appeal to the young population. If you look at the abject poverty and the difference, with the people that yield power, it's a big issue. And it's something we should look at as the NRM, really, going forward if we are to survive and grow this party. But also the issue of crime, which is also a going concern in Uganda. It is something that we should focus on, tackle, so that all our citizens are safe. But also, OO talked about the EFF. And indeed, the EFF could have been a little bit of a surprise, because I think they made close at 9%, less than 10% of what they got in the previous election. And similar to what our brothers are here, I mean, a campaign of just throwing slogans around and not discussing ideas. That has been the fate of EFF. And I still see that's the direction some of my colleagues are taking. I saw the rallies in Masaka, I saw in Mukono, and I don't think they are going to grow. And trust me, we will tell out of this election. It will either stay a party within Uganda. I don't think it will cut across. So it's important that they learn that it's important to push ideas out there. But Oscar, the most interesting thing is how this ends now.
Yeah.
Because the MK was formed on the basis of, if you look at what Zuma said actually, he said there is no way, it would be a betrayal to allow Ramaphosa to go back as president and chair of ANC under my watch. I'll do whatever it takes to at least make a contribution against his failure. So now they have a 15%. I'm sure they'll close at around 15 for MK, and the NC will close at around 40. I don't think they'll even go to 41%. Now the issue is the coalition going forward. I don't think the MK is going to agree to work with Ramaphosa as the head of the NC. I don't see it happening. So there's a possibility that there could be a coalition amongst the minorities now, and even have NC out of power. You never know how it goes. So we.
It won't get to that.
Okay, it may not get to that.
Marima can work with Zuma.
But yeah,
Marima can work with Zuma. They will even fight in the first meeting.
Yes, but
Yes.
no. But you see what I'm trying to say. Honorable Ssemujju, what I'm trying to say, if the DA has 22%, the EFF has 10%, the MK has 15%. That is a huge block with which they can negotiate with. If they go in as a team, trust me.
In theory, yes, but working together.
No, they won't get to 15.
No. Okay, it's okay. But they will negotiate a much better deal within ANC and have a much more influence within the next formation of government. But I will not be surprised if Ramaphosa has challenges becoming the next president of South Africa, even when the NC has the majority. Yes.
Okay. Derek Wandera. You've been quiet, enjoying Star Cafe goodies. It looks like your breakfast is already sorted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I came hungry. Yeah, I know. Let's just try to contextualize this election of South Africa from the point of really real politics at play. You have, just like the others have said, you have MK that moves out of the ANC, and MK from province and where Zuma thrives from the Zululand. You certainly are giving him that whole block of Zulu, which Zulu is in terms of numbers has the biggest population in South Africa as a tribe. And when you have carried Zuma out of ANC, you have carried the entire Zulu. And I would bet you anything there is anyone from the Zululand who voted for any other party other than MK. That's one. And then you have another big block of EFF controlling the youth. Certainly, you have a very big disadvantage as Ramaphosa when you have such a big breakaway. But also, let's look at the chronological flow of things. I think the highest number EFF has, NC has scored in terms of percentage was, I think, in the third election after 1994. Yeah, when they got 70%, but had been 68, 66, 70, 65. Then it came down in the last election to 57. That is only telling of how the power dynamics have been changing, and in terms of the voting patterns have been changing. So when everyone agrees that this was certainly expected, and even if Zuma had stayed in ANC, probably we would have even gotten a smaller number, even if it were going to be 50 plus 1%, could have been maybe 50 or 51. But then there is that big blow of Zuma walking away. And like Honorable Mgara says, we certainly are not going to see even 41 from ANC. Certainly is going to be 40, and we pray that doesn't dwindle into 30s. So, looking at all those voting patterns, you are sure that this is something that was expected. South Africa has been changing in so many ways, other than the Honorable O.O. and Honorable Mgara saying the politics of EFF have not grown and are not growing. In my view, I think they have a very big effect. I don't think EFF as a party controls maybe a big chunk of people, especially people from the ones you'd call the elite. They do not control the elite, but they have their constituency to which they have stayed and stuck for some time now, who are the youth. And trust you me, just getting that number away from whichever party wants to take power is very, very, very is very effective and something that can affect an election. So you have all these power dynamics, and again the question is, how then will the negotiations be? Because I don't see. Of course, I see that ANC might go for these small parties that have 1%, 2%, and try to convince them into a coalition and things like that. I don't see them going to EFF. Neither do I see them going to MK or even DA for that big coalition. But like the Honorable Mugara puts it, if the impossibilities come and the minorities come together, and agree and say to hell and enough is enough with ANC, and they come together, certainly they are going to raise that 50 plus, and who knows, ANC might be kicked out of power. But of course those are things that we can only talk about. But trust you me, the power dynamics in South Africa are changing, just like they are going to change in Uganda in the near future. And like O says, NRM has a bigger lesson to learn from South Africa and probably change their strategies and some of the things they are doing. I think the government right now, with everything that's happening, is at its weakest, and they need to re-strategize. The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary need to come sit together. And seeing what's happening in South Africa, who knows, in 2 years, can happen in Uganda.
Okay. Nora Araga on X, formerly Twitter, says it is disturbing that Julius Malema's EFF didn't do as well as expected in the just concluded South Africa election, because they campaigned on embracing and uniting Africa. They are vocal against black on black and xenophobia, a big setback for the Pan-African dream. So, Nafi, do you agree as well that it is disturbing that EFF lost because they had a black thought in, just as Thomas has suggested?
Thomas may be right, actually, but EFF always behaves like they're not in it to win. They need to disrupt. So I don't think Malema has ever gone into an election hoping he becomes a president. I don't think he thinks it's a realistic ideal for him, but he recognizes the role he plays in South Africa as a disruptive element that makes the right noise at the right time and effects the change that needs to be effected. So I'm not surprised. He did make certain comments that maybe got him in trouble with some voters. But I think this being an election for socio-economic change, people were not in the mood to give votes to someone who they know is not going to win. People actually went to vote to get the change that they want, because Ramaphosa's reign has not been a walk in the park for South Africans. From the water scarcity, electricity, the economy, poverty is extreme. The economy is not doing well. Xenophobia is on the rise. So a normal South African doesn't look at his country and is proud of what they see. So this vote, for me, was a vote for, can we have some change somewhere? It wasn't a vote of, let me go and give Malema, who I know will not win, but makes some noise and impresses me with the noise that he makes. So for that, I didn't expect them to do any well. Can they be part of the coalition?
Interrupt you a little bit by reading out his description on Twitter, on X. Commander-in-Chief of Economic Freedom Fighters and a revolutionary activist for radical change in Africa.
Yeah.
No Facebook account. Fools get blocked.
Yeah, that person is not looking to be president, but he has his role. I think shaping the narrative, yes. That is his role, and he's played it well. I give him credit for that because I like the guy, and sometimes I like his rhetoric. Sometimes he's excessive and he's like a madman, but sometimes the madman has a use in situations like this. But then back to the election, Oscar, I like to see democracy at work in Africa. For a long time, we've actually paid lip service to democracy. We actually, as Africans, don't believe that democracy works here. If you tell a typical Ugandan whether they are going to get a democratically elected leader in this country in the next 10 years, most of them will express doubt.
A leader like Besigye says elections don't work.
Exactly. So for me, when I see a country like South Africa, where you see democracy working, where you see Ramaphosa is not threatening to go to a bush to fight, Ramaphosa is not bending backwards to steal ballots from even before the election. They do not have rogues they don't have rogues at the Electoral Commission masquerading.
Very quickly.
Voting station early so people can vote. There was some tricky business starting, but it's not as.
Have you seen the tricky business in our election? Do you know a guy called Biabakama? Yes, you would know.
Let's stay on course.
No, he's in charge of the election, and yeah, so.
And it's perfect.
It's quality election.
Yes, and so for us here, let me tell you, it's worse than that. Yes, much worse than that, and. When leaders don't realize that the whole purpose of their leadership
was democracy is good.
Democracy is working.
Yes.
In Africa, in some places. And when other African countries see this, Ofono is right, and I don't usually agree with him. Ugandans are watching. And when they see that actually, if you protest and you peacefully say, can the elections work? Then they will work, and then we'll get the change you need. All these parties, ANC, the Democratic Party in the US, NRM in Uganda, they take it for granted that they're automatically going to, for example, the Democratic Party thinks the black vote is theirs, whether they serve the blacks or not. If we field a candidate, you black person, you have to come and vote for us. ANC in South Africa for a long time has taken it for granted that all black people in South Africa have to vote for it. So NRM
now
took it for granted till they lost the central region. But then if you go to Chihihi, NRM is going to get 99%. And they take it, whether a person is poor, disgruntled, unhappy, they will do this. But that time is going to come when people connect the dots between their leaders and their poverty. And that happened in South Africa, where people connected their leaders, and then it became not a matter of loyalty to your party, not a matter of race or your blackness, but a matter of your survival. Your socio-economic survival is at stake here. And you have to think before casting that vote. So for me, Oscar, I think I like it when the next generations now start to understand that there are repercussions to, say, for example, just having someone who does not even begin to understand economics as their leader. That then blows back onto you, and the reason why you don't have the food on your plate the next day or electricity in your house for the next month is because this leader is clueless and took his money and went away.
Okay.
Whether they'll have a coalition, Oscar, I think for me it is beautiful to see that no matter what, ANC has to make a coalition, and with one of the people who are fundamentally opposed to it, because then you get a coalition that is for the people, that is for the interests of the people. DA being a predominantly white party who is accused of fostering white party interests, I don't see them just following ANC in whatever they do. MK being a party that opposed ANC and is formed on the background of their opposition to ANC, is not going to counter whatever ANC says. It's not a case of NRM and DP, where the DP guy goes to NRM and just decides to eat and fatten his stomach. No. This is a case of actual...
Are you speaking figuratively or metaphorically?
Let me switch off or his microphone. So, thank you.
Or you can choose. So it's not a case of those sham coalitions that NRM makes with all these people that it pays off, and then they go off to eat and even forget the party and the people they were representing. These are real coalitions that will make decisions in the interest of the people, because these parties come on board with opposing interests, which someone has to listen to.
Ssemujju. We are heading to conclusion of this topic. I'll hand back to Thomas after you for conclusion. But Martin Mugara says the EFF is like a similar party he knows in Uganda, and he says that only one in Buganda. And is this what OO is talking about when you dismiss such ideas, saying this is only one in Buganda?
Elections can be won on programs, but they can also be won on no program at all. The population may just vote against a particular group, a particular party. The same way the Conservative Party is going to lose the elections in the UK. I don't think many of those who are going to vote against them are doing so just because of the failure to handle the economy. But it's a protest.
Can we have something?
And in Africa, many of the elections are not necessarily elections driven. Results are not necessarily driven by programs. Because if Zuma was messing up South Africa yesterday,
and now he's wants to champion,
you would imagine that
they don't want him.
That person shouldn't be voted by anyone sensible. But he has his following. Malema himself was chased from the party because of indiscipline. But he turned himself into a savior of a particular group. So elections are not won particularly because of programs, because of ideology, like the NRM chairman likes preaching.
Can be sidelined on the list of indiscipline?
No. No. So I don't want to judge the National Unity Platform using the same measures as EFF in South Africa. But for me, the bigger lesson is that South Africa can organize free and democratic elections. People are not killed. The candidates are not imprisoned. They are not beaten. And then the ruling party can accept that we have lost and now we'll need to work with some other to form a government. Things that are not happening here. I don't know, it will even be insane to begin comparing Uganda to South Africa, because the elections in Uganda are organized by M7. If he chooses to bring SFC, they will be on the street shooting and killing. He will then speak proudly about it, and the Electoral Commission works like any other NRM league.
And internet not switched off.
Yeah. So we cannot, maybe you can compare South Africa to some countries in the West and a few in the South, like Botswana, Ghana, and so on. But really, us here, we are just better than Rwanda, who the elections are interesting. Candidates will be in jail, and then the leader will get 90-something%. So, Ofono Ponda, I congratulate you, you are better than Rwanda.
I hope you are not inviting deportation from that country.
I have never been stopped from going to Rwanda.
Let's have last word on this topic.
So I am happy that so the only lesson is for us to begin learning slowly that you can organize an election and
before Sankara comes in, can you imagine in Uganda, young people who are making it, who are getting successful, are the most extreme opponents now of NRM, and you say, is NRM seeing this? The young people like Ssemujju and Nafi who are really succeeding are the ones opposed to NRM.
No, you see, part of it is the level of civic competence, but part of it is also the nature of NRM. I went to Chisoro to visit. We had a guy working at our home for 37 years. And I went to Bunagana to visit him with all the family. But police came and said, why are you visiting? Can you imagine? They found me cooking. He said, why are you here? Who did you notify? I said, guys, I am visiting this guy. He has been working at home for the last 37 years. We didn't know where he was even coming from. Then
and you are in Uganda, you don't need a visa to go.
One patrol, a second one, a third. Eventually, we are becoming a nuisance. I told the guy we had carried gifts, that your gifts are here. Buy. Then we were followed by police until Chisoro, the hotel where we stayed. So there are areas where NRM will win even if they don't campaign. I've been in Karamoja. MPs there are run by RDCs and district police commanders. Maybe they are even appointed in Karamoja MPs. So it's not that those, I am telling you, I have gone with MPs from Nakapiripi to Moroto to where they first report to RDC office, then to DPC, then they will attach you with the security wherever you are going. And I've told you, Chisoro. So in our elections can only be compared to our neighbor here. There maybe we are doing very well. If that's the standard.
Gara comes in the honorable, because sometimes we are blamed for no reason. The FDC is now split in I don't know how many groups. I know NOP will be split soon. But and that is something you should be learning.
No, but FDC came from NRM mainly. Yes. So NRM also has been splitting. Ssemujju, what are you saying that is new? Besigye, Muntu, they all came from NRM. So splitting is normal. Please find another point.
No, but that's what I was saying. It is something you should learn from the NC because they are losing because of the split. So we will always have no competition when you can't.
But you're also splitting every day.
Who? The NRM?
No. PLM, your patriotic party.
But Benon Herbert Oruka is sending a message saying Malema and Zuma have been buddies lately. So you politicians, you have no enemies.
They were unified by their hatred of Ramaphosa. But I don't think they can work together.
So
Malema, they can't. I want to go back. Can they work together? Because that's a topic that all Ugandans should look at carefully, right? Because when you look at the situation between the NUP and the NRM, we think like those guys hate each other, they can never sit in the same table without fighting and things like this. How did South Africans do it? What's so different with South Africans that they actually can sit with opposition face to face and talk to each other like carefully? What is different? First, they've done that in 1994 with the whites, right? So they all learned that tricks. The ANC all learned how to speak with your enemies from back in the struggle, right? That's the first point. The second point is that it's been 15 years that they work together at municipal level and provincial level. So that's something Uganda should look at, because when you have to control a municipality, and those municipalities can be big, you think of Johannesburg, you think of Durban, you think of Cape Town. This is a lot of money, much more money than a lot of provinces in Africa have for their own government, right? They sit together and they have to work together. So one thing is also to say that when you start to work together in different political formations, you have to learn those things before. You can't start from the scratch the day after the elections. Those people have been governing Western Cape, like the DA, for instance, and the ANC is in opposition in Western Cape. In KwaZulu-Natal, for instance, now is going to be the ANC in opposition. The MK will be leading. But in Gauteng, where Johannesburg is, the MK will be the opposition and the ANC is leading, and they lead enough to choose who's going to sit at the table with them. They are in a position where they are the number one party of South Africa. South Africans still, by 40% of them, believe that they are the one that should rule them. They still believe they're number one as we speak. They invite people at their table. They choose what they invite. They choose how they invite them. But at the end of the day, they know each other from long time of working with each other. And I think that's really important. And maybe like the last point to our people that says that the EFF didn't grow bigger and that it's not only being disruptive that works. I say that the EFF shaped the narrative in all Africa, not only in South Africa. In South Africa, people spoke of EFF and ANC. No one really speak of the DA. Recently, people start to speak of the MK. But when it comes to real politics, the question of the land issues, the question of foreigners, the question of the institution, it's EFF that bring the topic on the table, not other political forces. So they shape the imagination of the youth. They shape the political debate in the country. But yet, people don't trust them, and I believe that it's probably the end of a journey for Julius Malema, but not the end of the journey for the economic freedom fighters.
Thank you for that conclusion. We're going to stop for a break, and after the break, we go to censure. Back from the break, this is the Capital Gang. We move on to the next topic. Honorable Ssemujju Ibrahim, you have not signed your friend's petition.
Why?
To recall commissioners.
Which friend?
Sechikubo. He has a multi-party motion, and on this one he has asked you to sign because you've been a champion against corruption. I remember here when Agatha Tohari was seated right next to you, she accused you of not doing enough, and if you don't sign that petition, next week I'll invite you to accuse you some more.
Oscar, I have not signed, and I think I saw a post. My attention was drawn to a post in the social media. They read my mind fairly well. I have not signed and I am not signing.
Oh, you didn't say those things. They just read your mind.
No, they just did. So
But now it is official. You have said you will not sign.
I have not signed and I will not sign.
Why will you not sign?
Why are you in a hurry? So I thought you gave me the microphone to speak.
Okay. As you keep telling other people,
you
the
see,
Kaptogang is a short program.
It's Oscar. I and Mpuga have come from very far. We met in senior 2 Masaka Secondary, went to university together.
Let him finish.
Now, if they are sentencing you, I will not participate. I want to give you that assurance. Once you are a friend, for me, you are a friend. I am not going to celebrate your problems. So I am not signing, and that is the main reason that I am not signing. And if that debate happens in Parliament, for the first time, I'll stay away. I'm not going to be part of that debate. Because I must choose. It's a friend of more than 2 decades. But having said that, I wanted that to be clear in everyone's mind, that because this is Mpuga that people are lynching, I am not going to participate.
It's not just him.
The others can.
Yeah.
But what you also need to understand, you see, the trouble is that because of the social media pressure, it's now almost morally attractive for everybody to sign. But MPs are going to find themselves in a mess. How? The money for which they are seeking to censor people is money that was passed by Parliament.
The 500 million,
yes,
and the 400 and the 23.
You will be shocked. I keep quarreling with the MPs. They do not read. Even the last budget, when we are handling it, I drew their attention to the same money, this time not for service award, but money for donation. And I was defeated. You have in the budget money from 132 billion for donation. The speaker has 2.5, the deputy speaker, the chief justice, everybody. And I said, you can't continue including money for no specific activity in the budget, but just for people to pick and donate the way they like. I was defeated. There is money, if you look at the public affairs, I think, department in Parliament, they have more than 5 billion shilling for public outreach.
Okay.
I did include all that in my monetary report. Parliament passed it. So the MPs are actually censoring themselves because we don't read, we don't pay attention. This money was passed by Parliament. And I'm not saying...
it was passed by Parliament,
yes,
why did they need a special meeting?
Which special meeting?
The particular meeting.
You leave the parliamentary commission meetings. Those ones we don't participate. They can have extraordinary, they can have whichever meeting. But eventually the money was put in the budget of the parliamentary commission and was processed by Parliament. A motion to pass a budget is always moved by government. With the full involvement of government, that money was passed by Parliament. So the MPs who are censoring, majority of them don't read. I want you to invite them here one day and ask them to explain to you the parliamentary commission budget for next financial year. What is it going to fund?
Okay.
Majority are ignorant. And please excuse me, I am not going to participate in a mob of people who are ignorant. They need to go and read the budget and understand what the implication, because all of us now are censoring ourselves. You go and pass a budget, you give money to people, the following day you discover that actually you didn't even know what you were passing. And that's the Parliament of Uganda.
Okay. The Martin Mugara Bahinduka, I hope you'll use fewer words than Honorable Ssemujju. Have you signed the petition?
No, first of all, I'm an ex-official member of Parliament.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't have a vote.
Yeah.
But I was just going through the rules of procedure, and I've had, for instance, Honorable Nwagaba raising the issue. If you look at just a minute. If you look at Rule 110 of the Rules of Procedure, and you look at Section 2, which talks about censure of a commissioner, it says, a motion for resolution for the removal of a commissioner shall be initiated by notice in writing to the clerk, signed by not less than 1/3 of all voting members of Parliament, indicating their intention for moving the motion for their removal. But 3 says, the notice under sub-rule 2 shall indicate the grounds for the motion and all particular supporting grounds. And I think that's what members are raising. You're telling us sign something we don't have the proper detail. But also, who constitutes a commission? It is much bigger than just the 4 commissioners. So it's possible that, like Ssemujju is saying, that the process was clearly followed, and this money was gotten, and we may not be able to find the fault going forward. But that is for members of parliament to decide going forward. I can predict. I don't see this motion succeeding easily. And there could be some grounds. Some people have already gone to court, and there could be. I'm not saying I support. I mean, if indeed it's corruption, but the issue is, let's look at the procedure. So the Honorable Ssemujju group can come, show us the motion, share it. Then members will know what they are signing against going forward.
The Fonopondo, I heard on the news today that so far they've garnered 140 something votes of the 176 they need. So Martin is not totally correct to say that they may not get the votes.
I've been on this show. I didn't and I still don't agree that members of parliament, and particularly now the commission, should award themselves money in the way they did. That one, in the way they do, I don't agree with it. In the current budget, I've said elsewhere, they have hidden 42 billion as fuel areas for the last financial year, claiming that the fuel price went up. Members of parliament spent more, 42 billion. So I agree with Honorable Ssemujju that our members of parliament are never serious on things that actually matter. They don't pay attention to detail. And so that's something we can deal with at another time. On the particular censure motion, I have said it elsewhere. As many people know, Honorable Ssemujju has been nearly absent from parliament for the last 2 years. I don't know where he has been. Now, he all of a sudden jumps up, and you can see him, he says he is being motivated by social media. But that parliament is a public body, is audited. I expect a member of parliament to act on the official audit report of parliament. What does the audit report on parliament say? Is there abuse or not? Have you ever had a serious debate on the Auditor General's report on Parliament? The budgeting process in Parliament, particularly for the Parliamentary Commission, usually they ask the journalists to go out when the budget of Parliament is being presented before the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. When that report is taken to the Budget Committee, again, the journalists are asked to leave. So nobody actually pays attention.
Yeah, but even the journalists themselves are lazy. If you go to the website of Minister of Finance,
yes,
they have aggregated figures of every department going into details of what money you're going to spend on what.
I agree with you there, but I'm making my point that the journalists and the conduct of Parliament and the members of Parliament. And therefore, I suspect that Honorable Ssemujju, as usual, this is 23rd year in Parliament. There are very rare occasions where what Ssemujju has touched with his hand has succeeded. I don't see him succeeding in this. And when you hear the figure of 130, what, ask yourself, has Ssemujju published, put transparently, the reasons he's seeking to censure people? He's holding it in his armpit. How come that he's the one on the desk himself supervising the collection of signatures?
Why not?
Does that give you an impression, a perception of somebody who's transparent? Let him, if he wants you to acknowledge those numbers, let him put in the public, and we see actually the people have said. I think it is the politicking, but also there's the politics of Parliament. What Honorable Ssemujju alluded to. Ssemujju is still saying he's a personal friend. I don't agree with that version. That because somebody is your personal friend, if he's at fault, therefore you can't take him on.
No, the law allows you actually to abstain.
That's okay.
Dr. Kanovere says, I'm surprised with Honorable Ssemujju's decision.
What
an emotional
That's your
statement.
reason, but I think that's not a valid, shouldn't be a valid reason. That because Ofono is your friend, when he faults, you should not take him on. But that's your area.
Wow.
But for me, I see the broader politics in Parliament about this censure. For example, members of the NRM, some few, are angry with their commissioners. Why? Because first of all, they went asleep, and they allowed the sake of the NRM to take over their responsibility to appoint commissioners and chairpersons of committee. So they have
150 applied to be commissioned.
Yes, 150 applied. Yeah. Now, when they see their friends taking these pegs, they are now saying, "Oh, so you are eating in our name," and you have had their reasons. By the way, you have had them saying, the ones who are signing, they say, "You see, these people are getting 23 million additional money, and they use it against us in our constituency." In the case of Ssemujju, the other day when I lost my mother, came with a lady who has been standing on FDC ticket in Vijiri. And he introduced that lady to me and said, "This is the prospective candidate now." He said, for the next election for Vijiri district woman against Taka, and said she has crossed to NRM. And why is Ssemujju doing this? Ssemujju is saying that, is alleging that the Right Honorable Justin Lumumba is also sponsoring a candidate against him. So now, if you are censuring people on the basis of your politics in the constituency, I don't think that's the right way to go. But I wish Honorable Ssemujju look at the reasons of Honorable Tamaguzi. He says, I was not going to sign this censure motion, but because they have alleged that whoever doesn't sign or is not signing has been bribed with 25 million. I'm now signing to prove that I have not got the 25 million. Can that be a reason for a member of parliament? Can that be a reason? so you see people who are unserious. And so for me, I said on another platform that because of all those, this censure process must collapse.
Okay.
And I will really mobilize NRM MPs not to reward Honorable Ssemujju, who has been so indisciplined in NRM, and gang up with him. On that basis, I'm going to mobilize NRM MPs not to agree with Honorable Ssemujju, and therefore essential process should collapse. If he
already has 145 signatures,
whatever he has, if have you seen the list? I don't think he has that. But in the unlikely event that he gets 177, that's not the end of that process. We shall campaign it in Parliament where it matters now. If it goes to the committee of Abdul Katuntu,
Ssemujju is indisciplined.
That is my legitimate reason to decampaign.
It is as bad as Ssemujju's.
This is what I'm saying. That's my legitimate reason. Somebody who has been decampaigning NRM on a number of important issues.
He's an NRM MP.
Yes, he's an NRM MP. I am not going to reward his indiscipline by supporting him on this business. I will not.
Okay, Nanfi, you're on microphone. So, according to OO, it's about Ssemujju's indiscipline. Instead of, then he adds on among others, though he has already said he disagrees with the commission awarding themselves monies, but he's against. The question to you is Nanfi, the question to you then is, do you then understand why people will say if there are sanctions against some people, people may jump up and down, and if there's a censure against some people, people may jump up and down, because the people who can do something about it are like Ofono Opondo and what he's saying now?
Oscar, sometimes I agree that in Uganda we just have the politics of fools. We're just all foolish. And in our foolishness, we work against our own interests. Does Ssemujju have sinister motives for his censure motion? Most probably, being Ssemujju. Everyone knows his history and his issues. And that is why Lydia Wanyoto last week was asking him, why didn't you come to NRM first? 3 of these people are NRM MPs. Why didn't you come to NRM first? And then gather support there. And then when you come to, if the NRM leadership has okayed this, then automatically you have a block to censure. But then we all told Lydia, you know why he wouldn't go to that block. Because the NRM leadership has been notoriously known, A, to be corrupt themselves, B, to shoot down anything that benefits the country for their own self-interests. So he wouldn't go there. But he probably has a sinister motive. But it saddens me to see two leaders in the country like Ofono and Ssemujju here giving the most flimsy reasons for the reasons why they would defeat something that in principle all of us should be behind. It's like if Ssemujju here, and I can say Ssemujju is my friend, released a virus that then killed 1,000 people, and they tell you Ssemujju has to go to jail, and I was there, witnessed this virus killing people, it would be foolish in the extreme of me not to get him, because the next time he will release another virus, then when do we cure these ills if we get flimsy reasons? And I could see Ssemujju struggling to even back his flimsy reason. You know, sometimes in secondary school or primary school maths, you had the answer, you knew the answer, but the working you did not know. So you just started with the answer and then go backwards to forging a working and hoping the invigilator wouldn't catch you in your forgeries because you needed their marks for the working. So Ssemujju fails on the marks for the working and even fails with the answer. And Ofono here, I am saddened to see him go down the same route of, yes, in principle, I agree what they did was wrong, because then we don't cure a key ill.
He has found an excuse.
Exactly. They're finding excuses to let this corruption tendencies in Parliament fester. Because the truth is that, like I said last week, this is not a singular problem. This is an endemic problem with our parliamentarians. And this is why you see on social media parliamentarians referred to as MPs most of the time, because people know that right now anyone who goes to parliament, this is even when you go for a function and you find an MP there's no respect you give them, because most of them now, of course, your crowds that you pay will come and give you the fake respect that you've asked for them and you've paid for. But it doesn't mean that people genuinely actually respect an MP now or even a minister, because we've come to learn that these are the worst of our society. They go there and somewhere, Ssemujju and Ofono make a good point when they say the whole budget is full of MPs stealing and being corrupt and giving themselves money and giving themselves packs. And yet when they see a certain clique of people do the same thing, they are coming against them with all daggers drawn. And then the other thing for me that saddens me is even the process, even if we completed them and got those signatures, these people are still not going to be brought to book. They're still going to go scot-free, because where did the last census go? You understand? Where did maybe America will see them and do what they've done to AAA, ban them and their spouses, because these days it's dangerous to be married to a corrupt individual. You can end up you can be banned for their actions. So maybe this process, that is where it will end, because look at AAA and all the money they've been stealing from Parliament. Look at the Mabati saga. Has anyone done anything about it? Look at the classified budget, the numbers in the classified budgets, which we cannot even query. So at the end of the day, these MPs are not on our side. And people now are learning that you're not going, even Ssemujju, a beloved by his people know that at some point when his friendships are threatened, he's not going to come fighting for them. How many were fighting for the traders when the traders had problems? Because you see, they also need the money that is being collected by URA badly, because it's the money that they loot. So if URA is not collecting this money, they have nothing to loot. So they will keep quiet and, squeeze as much as they can. Even if their constituents are crying and bleeding, they will say, go on and squeeze, but don't put the camera in my face that I told you to go on and squeeze them, because they need the money.
Okay.
So for me, it's an endemic problem which we need to find a comprehensive solution for, not these tit-bit politically engineered solutions that go nowhere and don't make any fundamental, don't affect the fundamental corruption and self-centeredness that is our parliamentarians.
Okay. 2 messages on Twitter, formerly X, formerly Twitter. Nabimara Charles, sincerely, you have mixed up arguments. You fault Ssemujju for the reason he gave, then you bring a fake one. Then Nkwangu says, now how will Ssemujju fault at President Museveni when he defends or shields his long-time friends in times of trouble? So, Derek. Yes, Derek.
I have had a very in-depth interview with the Honorable Ssemujju. It's going to be, I think, published tomorrow in the Monitor. And I just wanted to, and I wanted to just understand where Honorable Ssemujju is coming from, because when we were here last week, we did not get enough time to exhaust his reasons.
He did have many.
And from what I read in his responses to my questions, and listening to the Honorable Ssemujju Nganda, whom I'm very disappointed in today, and listening to my Ndugu he says whenever I want something from him, I call him Ndugu. And listening to Honorable Mugara and all the other parliamentarians, there's a very big problem in our country. There's a very big mess, and the mess is that even when we have very good intentions for fighting ill and evil, the person who is going to defend is going to have the most ill intention of defending that person. That when I see OO stealing a cup and I make an alarm, I'm not making it in the good sense of it. I'm making it because I should be the one to steal that cup, not that I want theft to stop. I'm making the alarm because OO has gone ahead of me to steal the cup. I should have been the one to steal it, and that's what I'm reading. And that's and I listened to the Honorable Ssemujju throwing rhetorics in my interview, which is going to be public, and I feel very, very bad. And to be honest with you, I've been listening to everyone talking here, and we do not have any reason for censuring those guys. But the truth remains that it's evil. They did evil. But then the reasons we are giving for censuring them or not censuring them are very clumsy. And I was here and I said our parliament is full of charlatans. And they have what one would call cryptic innuendos and all the cryptic naivety and sentimental naivety that someone is naive, but even their naivety is so sentimental.
Why are you looking at
No, I'm looking at Oscar. I'm looking at Oscar. I'm not and I speak this from a point that if the Honorable Ssemujju, whom everyone has held in such good regard and such high esteem, comes here and says, I am not going to sign, and I'm very bold that I'm not going to sign because those are my friends. Mpuga is my friend. For crying out loud, Mpuga stole money and he needs to be censured. That's the truth. And whether he is your friend or not, you need to stand with the public. So, Honorable Ssemujju, you're not standing for the people of Kira municipality. You are standing for your own reasons.
Did you ask them first?
And honestly, if you went with such a reason to the people of Kira, today I was coming and the border person was telling me, but who is the MP of Kira municipality? I said, I am going to be with him on the show. And he said, but that road is very bad. And I said, he has told me and has told the country that he's not going to fight to make that road because that's not his work. And indeed, it's not your work. What I'm saying is, if the people of Kira municipality who are struggling to make sure that their road is made, listen to you saying you're not going to censure the Honorable Mpuga, who stole the money which is supposed to go to that road, they will lynch you. I beg to submit.
Chiran will contest the next election.
Hey. Thomas, what do you take from this?
What I take is that the debate is firing. I like that. I think it's a good idea to confront opinions, and I appreciate that everyone is around the table, but yet telling each other what they feel. I'm not a specialist of the questions, but I'm definitely happy that I'm here to listen and learn.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a good time to talk about Uganda Matters University. The Uganda Matters University is seeking applicants for undergraduate and postgraduate programs for the academic year 2024-2025. Applicants must have a degree in a relevant area from a recognized university and a minimum of 2 principal passes. I guess that was at A level. Visit their campuses at Nkozi, Lubaga, Fort Portal, Masaka, Mbale, and Kampala. Uganda Matters University, where knowledge meets opportunity. So, before we switch topics, would you agree that in Uganda we make noise, we shout out when there are sanctions against some people who have had billions, because we know that people in power are doing not much about it, and the people in power, Ofonopono, Martin Mugara, Hon Ssemujju. So we are left to just joyfully celebrate sanctions.
No, I agree with you that if our systems were...
Ssemujju is going to kill Ssemujju. Says, so first listen to this one. First, it says, Kaima says, so why did Ssemujju leave FDC of Naja for bringing in dirty money?
They didn't give him his fair share. As one day says, he wished he was the one who had been given this money.
That was the fight.
But to excuse, it's part of the politics, Oscar. Even in court, we went to Mbale after the change of the constitution, and one of the lawyers asked the Chief Justice not to preside over because people who are accused are his friends. I have said I am excusing myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see, by the way, I agree with Wandera. You see, even the other famous 5 million in 2005, the one of Sechikubo and Nyakaisiki, the one of the term limit. People praise Sechikubo for blowing it, but actually Sechikubo had gone to Mosakot to sign for his. It was only that when he reached there, he found the people were giving the money, Oliver Woneka, Nefaka Woya, Hope Mwesije, and so on. He said, no, we are not going to give you because you are in discipline. So they refused to give him. So he came back sulking. That's how now. He said, this is part. so I agree with Wanda in that respect. But now, yes, if our system here had been effective in the case you are trying to raise over the sanctions against our leaders, probably the UK, the US wouldn't be taking those steps. You remember when that thing of Babati broke out, and the president himself came out and he said, wait, you are going to see the action I'm taking. At that point, people thought that the president probably was going to conduct internal investigation, and when there is a prima facie, he would immediately maybe relieve, particularly the ones he has powers to relieve, his ministers. He didn't do it until after a year, and when he did it, it was half. Quarter. You take away the Karamoja people, you leave Lugorovi, who your own government has taken to court. I mean, how does it look that a minister is in a court but is busy presiding over in parliament, presenting a budget, is launching the what? The census. I made a decision. I said, where Lugorovi is going to be presenting something, I will not be there. And I have never been.
You're doing a one-person protest.
So you will not take your budget.
Somebody will present it if he's there. So, I think many people got disappointed, including in the country, with what appears to be half measure. So, if our system had been effective, Now, I have issues with Ugandans. We should not be happy that our leaders are sanctioned by others on issues that we should have taken action ourselves. For example, these issues that have been taking place in Parliament, it should have been the members of Parliament to demand from their leadership accountability. That we have seen the following. First of all, they should have asked immediately the Auditor General, can you do forensic audit in 1 month and present to Parliament so that it is publicly debated on the floor of Parliament? But as I said earlier on, that Parliament has never debated the Auditor General's report on Parliament. Now you ask, this service award they recently gave John Mwanga, you ask them, why did they give it to him? Giving him this 500 million service award on the backdrop of the exposure of filth in Parliament, meaning that the auditor, that John Mwanga has not been doing a good job on auditing Parliament. So why? So we shouldn't be happy that is foreign countries sanctioning our leaders. It is an indictment that we have failed on our own. Now, I have the second problem with the people who are indicting our leaders, the foreign people. Look at the reasons. You remember when we were holding here the Speakers' Conference? At that time, UK actually wrote to all Commonwealth countries' speakers not to come to Uganda. At that time, the so-called road in Parliament hadn't been exposed. But they wrote why? They wrote that because Uganda had passed anti-homosexuality law. So, they are simply using now the financial scam as an excuse for their other issues. How about the question of Kaihura? How about the question of John Biabashaija? And so on. So you see sinister motive of the Europeans, sinister motive of the Americans. And I don't think we should allow them to use the sinister motives to ride over us. I don't think we should.
Okay.
I don't think we should. And so for me, on that respect, I oppose, I disabuse those sanctions. If our leaders have erred, and indeed they have erred, it should be our responsibility to hold them to account. And especially the institutions that matter.
Yeah. You've heard from OO, says indeed these people have made serious errors, but they should be tackled by in-house. But the tacklers won't sign.
You see,
so
and he agrees with them not signing.
And he agrees with them not signing.
You see, we in the past we have been accused by the Museveni government of being foreign sponsored. Yet he is also foreign sponsored. If you look at our budget,
Museveni declares what the foreign people sponsor government on.
Yeah, they are sponsoring our politics.
You don't declare. That's our issue.
No, we declare to Electoral Commission, not to Museveni. So you see, we are a poor country, and a poor country that relies so heavily on financing from these people. If you look at the budget of Minister of Health, next financial year's budget is going to be financed 80% by Gavi, by Global Fund, by so many other foreign interests. So for Nopondo, the foreign interests are still hanging over you. So if they bring their sanctions, whether for this or for no reason, you have no option. But some of the specific issues, for example, Erweru, I don't know whether it is because of Kasese.
Most likely.
If it is Kasese and he was ordered by the president, So what internal mechanism will hold him accountable? The president ordered you, a soldier, you go and attack and shoot, and then he killed people, more than 100 people. I don't think there is any internal mechanism that will eventually. But also, if it is corruption and they have brought their money here, in the budget that we are passing, you have budget support which has reduced now, I think, as a result of the law on homosexuality from about 2 trillion to about 20 billion. But they are also project support by the same people. So if they bring their money here and you misappropriate it, they have every reason to sanction you. You cannot say, please don't. Until such a time when they no longer bring your money. That's why Saudi Arabia, with the human rights abuses, they can be corrupt, they can be everything, but it is their money. They are reluctant to sanction them. But for you, they bring here their money, you misappropriate it, they still give you support in the security sector. So they have every reason to hold you to account because you are not standing on your own. And your internal mechanism have been undermined. I don't think because I think the president cares more about the next election and how he will cheat it. So all the agents that are helping him to do so, it doesn't matter which crime they have committed. So really, I am not going to attack foreign sanctions. I am because the internal mechanism is not working.
Anafi.
That's it.
Ssemujju does not say he has supported the sanctions, but he says he does not support them.
Oscar. For me, as a member of the public and as a lay person, any pain to people who have caused this country pain, I don't care how it comes from, where it comes from, and in which form, we welcome it. Because when you look at someone who steals money, builds a house in Bukedea, and the road to that house is as the length of Salama Road, and people on Salama Road contribute a lot to the taxation in this country, and yet a single person's road to their home in a rural area is worked on, and yet these people continue to struggle accessing their homes in a road right in the middle of town. Why wouldn't those people be happy if this person is punished, even in the smallest way? I see letters making rounds from State House to, social media and back to State House, and some are fake and some are not fake.
Denied.
But the one thing that comes from that is that the people who are stealing are now not sleeping. And trust me, for Uganda, we are Ugandans who, some of the members of the public even celebrated Olanya's death. And some people here on Capital Gang were mad that they did. But you've driven people to a point where they are now starting to be inhuman. Why? Because they feel helpless. And let me tell you, when somebody feels helpless, in law we have a case, I forget the citation, where people were stranded on an island and they started eating each other. Trust me, if those people were in a place where there was plenty of food, no one would be eating each other, because the case came up because as they were eating half of one of their friends, they were rescued. So the rest of the people were accused of murder, and the court had to decide: is it murder? Is it allowed for desperate people to take desperate measures? So I don't see any Ugandan wanting another country to take over their sovereignty. If they understand even that, most people don't even understand the role of sovereignty. But if we are under state capture, someone has already captured our state. As a Ugandan, I don't feel that this country is free to make its own decisions. I don't believe that our politicians are working in the interest of all of us. I don't believe that our president, our ruling party, or anybody in government is working in the interest of the Wananchi. So if you're starting to claim, and I even saw the speaker appealing to the public to come out in droves and protest against this breach of our sovereignty, and I was like, why would we? So that we hand it back to you who is breaching it every day. So at the end of the day, Am I happy that these people are very uncomfortable where they are and are trying to justify? Because I saw the statement from the speaker, and I think that one was qualified as legitimate. Am I happy that she's uncomfortable, that she's not sleeping, that she's not going to be allowed in some countries, and that her life is miserable as we speak because of these sanctions? Yes, she needs to be miserable, because the next time she presses a button to steal money. I read an article a week ago by Andrew Mwenda in his independent paper, and this is not a person I'm a fan of, because, I mean, he speaks from both sides of the mouth and says whatever suits him as long as it gets him the money that he wants. But he mentioned something about why the state lets these people get away with what they do. Because, I mean, we've seen information that has leaked, which nobody's investigating, that money came from Bank of Uganda to Chris Obore's account, to who else in Parliament, and this money is siphoned off to people's person. No one is even auditing it. And I guess that is why they felt the need to give the Auditor General that award, the Lifetime Award, because it was like, thank you for letting us get away with so much. It isn't because he gave us such a good service. I mean, look at this country. And if you're the Auditor General of this country, or if you're anything in any leadership of this country, to me, you're a failure. So you don't deserve any award at the end of your tenure. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, we have evidence that comes out. Nobody, because it benefits the number one in this country, it keeps them in power, it pays off some of the parliamentarians to keep quiet, and all these arrangements are usually quid pro quo. The State House says, you'll pass our classified budget of this amount of money. In return, we'll allow you to get the fuel arrears that you've smuggled into the budget. And then they all go off and eat, and the poor, hapless Ugandan goes home hungry. And once again,
thank you.
We are helpless. So
Derek.
yes, we'll celebrate when
Derek
their problems. Even their death and sickness.
Derek, you're on microphone.
Yes. The sanctions from the US, I think, follow the ones of UK and always saying an Emirates, and I've been discussing this topic from different on different platforms, and one of the questions we need to ask ourselves is why now? Why now? Are we discussing this topic from the smallest microscope, or do we need to open our eyes quite wider to see the bigger picture of the sanctions and why the sanctions are coming? All of us here can agree and attest to the fact that if we opened our eyes wider, some of these things, for instance, the corruption, someone's going to bring the anti-gay bill and things like that. Those are and looking at the thing from the bigger perspective, those are very small matters, because they have been here. Corruption has been in Uganda forever, and people have been held and others arrested. And the anti-gay bill has been here with us, even in the constitution. Still, it's enshrined there, and many other things. But in looking at why the West is coming with all this big bang on Uganda, and we think just these ones are the problem, then we might be missing the point. For a very long time, the US has accused the president of Kenya right now, William Ruto, as the most corrupt person that they have ever seen, and it has been on the record in public spaces and stuff. But
and he has been to the ICC as well.
Yes, he has been dragged to the ICC and things like that. But just last week, he sat on the president's chair in the US and took pictures and all that. When you look at that sudden swift change from President Museveni, who has been the darling of the US, the darling of the West, and he has done for them everything that there is in terms of missions in Somalia, Central African Republic and Congo and things like that. And now the US is coming with such a big hammer to sanction the third in command of a country like Uganda, and all those power dynamics that are changing. And we've also seen the president changing his allegiance from the West so drastically towards the East. And I would want to even bring you to speak to what happened, for instance, between in the war of Russia and Ukraine. When President Museveni was asked, where do you fall? He sat on the fence. He says, I'm not going to meddle into those things. But just a week later, there are diplomats from Russia that came to Uganda. The foreign minister. And another week or a fortnight later, we saw diplomats from the US coming to Uganda. So, for me, the US seems to be punishing Uganda for their change of allegiance, and this I can say without mincing any words, that you do not change your allegiance the way President Museveni has been doing in every actions that he has been taking, and you think that the US is going to sit back, or even the West. So just looking at these pockets of corruption issues, well, they are not pockets, there's a lot of corruption, but looking at the corruption that has been inherent in Uganda or even in Africa as a reason for the sanctions, is for us to just be looking at things from very, very, very small microscope.
Let me come to you, Martin. By the way, Honorable Ssemujju, Nora Oraga is posting. Honorable Ssemujju has confirmed that Parliament legally passed the service awards, including that of Mpuga. So why now are the same MPs censuring him? I don't think that's what you said. You said Parliament passes monies, but not particularly the service award money.
No, that's what he said.
What I say, they passed money. But if you ask, I think more than 90% didn't know what they were passing. Like in many other cases.
Did you say they passed the service award money?
They did. It is in the budget of the Parliamentary Commission.
Saying that this money will be given for service award?
Yes. Okay. Even with the word written there.
Service award. So, Honorable Martin Mugara, the question, and I want us to go to Matters Day, because that's now your docket in terms of tourism. It attracts a great number of tourists and so on. Do things like sanctions and all detract from this mega event that's going to be on Monday?
First of all, Oscar, and I would even place a bet. Over the years, the purpose of sanctions from the West, usually to the developing countries, is when there is a deviation from the interest of the West. That is the standard. Sanctions have never been placed on any country to benefit the interest of the local people. It has never happened. I was looking at a document now before the Congress, that's a draft document before the Congress to sanction South Africa, and the reasons are clear in the document. It's a public document because they went to the ICJ on the Israel matter
twice.
ICJ.
They've gone twice.
Yes, and the heading is that they are threatening the security of the US. Secondly, yes, in the document. Secondly, because they are allying with Russia now. Thirdly, because they are allying with China now. And trust me, probably for the end, maybe from Afosa Falls or the NC, but these sanctions are coming. If you look at the country that has suffered the most in Africa, I think, which is Zimbabwe, under Mugabe, because of land reform. And the President Bush went on record clearly and said, not until you reform the land policy to give the foreigners land, I will not withdraw the sanctions. And the moment they did in 2020, sanctions were waived. In Uganda, when we passed the Anti-Homosexuality Act, and I agree with the Speaker sometimes, really, when we passed the Anti-Homosexuality Act, I think it was in May, Secretary Blinken made a statement and he said, we are going to sanction you, before we even discussed corruption. After he did, The president did as well, of the US, and said, come on, we are coming full swing.
So, just there, you know our stand we held here now, and we made the whole world, that alliance in NAM, to pass a resolution on Palestine question.
Yes.
And so they are using among us an excuse, really.
As an excuse. I remember last time when we appeared here, but I will say it because it's now in public opinion now. It's in the public domain. The Americans have officially written to the Ministry of Defense of Uganda and said, if you don't stop your relationship with Russia, we are going to sanction you as a country.
You have the letter?
Well, he's seen it.
Listen, it is, but I have seen the communication. True. So it's not a lie. And actually, for us to receive it, our Minister of Defense went to the U.S. Embassy. No, but I'm just trying to show you that let it be clear to the Ugandans. Yes, there should be an investigation, and most of these processes were started by this country. I see the interactions between the president and the speaker, trying to get to the bottom of this. My colleague, the ministers, were investigated by this country. They are before court. Probably they will be announced found guilty or not. So let's not be fooled by the American. I think it's a bigger problem. And we should stand up against this bully.
Thank you. And now, Namugongo.
Yes.
Matters Day.
First of all, I want to invite everyone to Namugongo.
Minister of Tourism.
No, the ministry. Yes, but Ssemujju, the Minister of Tourism since 2014 has been chair of the organizing committee for Namugongo.
Yes. Go on.
Yeah. And I know. Yes, the organization of Namugongo.
Go on.
No, Ssemujju, I've seen your communication somewhere protesting because you understand the but
who come to government asking for money. Why not? They're the ones who brought themselves to government asking.
Go on.
You have just praised the Americans.
You're on microphone.
So yeah. Interestingly, people tend to only focus on the Anglicans and the Catholics when it comes to martyrdom, but the Muslims as well. And we are working with the Muslims, first of all, to grow the site, bit fight. Government has immensely invested in this activity, 16 billion before to develop the Anglican side of the shrine. The Catholic, every year we make a contribution directly from government of around 3 billion to organize this. And to tourism, it's a big event because we have a turnover of around 3 million people that come around from the beginning to the end. So this is serious business, and it is in, I think, Ssemujju's constituency. Not
Ssemujju is to religious tourism to Maka. He doesn't appreciate the one to Namugongo.
Yes, so Oscar, you can see the importance of this. This is the biggest event we have as a country that brings in so many people, second in Africa. And the economic benefit it brings to this country. That's why, as I conclude, it surprises me when I see my colleagues, especially at this time, when the whole world is focused on Uganda. All of us know the story of the matters. I mean, the first Pope to visit Africa, the first time the Pope visited Africa, he came to Namugongo. And we know the immensity of this. We have so many people coming from Nigeria, from bringing in foreign currency, and a small political party somewhere, I say small because of the numbers in parliament and the rest, decides during this very time when we are celebrating this to run around the country and create. It is because you see, you're depicting a different image of this country. We are selling a different product. Yes. It is okay. Okay, there's also a problem, but let's also agree that this is also a problem going forward. So I think this is the right time. Ssemujju, let me make my case. This is the right time for every Ugandan tweet and talk about the beauty of Uganda through the Namugongo celebrations we're having. And I want to thank government for the support. It's happening because the security is good. There's good infrastructure around Namugongo. There's an entire development plan developed by Ministry of Works to expand that area and beautify it more. So I want to thank government for giving us enabling, but also the organizers who are the
Thank you.
Yes.
Thomas, on Uganda Matters Day and sanctions.
I have to say, and you won't hear me say that a lot. The minister might be right here. Personally, as a student in Senegal, I used to pray in the parish that was called the Martyr of Uganda. Everywhere I went, even in South Africa, there is parish called the Martyr of Uganda. And coming here in this land the very first time was also my very first idea of. That's one of the things that the world knows about Uganda. This is true. I wanted to also come back on what my colleague Derek said about Ruto being welcomed so warmly in the US because of his little job in IT policing. So Ruto is sending his best policemen to IT so they can learn how to police people. And in exchange, he gets some weapons and some security agreements so he can push down his own people that are in the streets. Only 9 months after his election, they start to riot in the street to say, no, the fuel are rising up, the university fees are rising up. And so Ruto decided to go on this alliance with the US. Should be something of concern for Ugandans, I believe, because of the East African community. Yeah, according to the Treaty of the East African Community, when one player come and bring such an important player on the table, that should be discussed by all members of the community. And in that case, Ruto have been really selfish into this relationship, I believe. And unfortunately, it might have consequences for us here in Uganda that we should all look carefully.
Like what consequences?
Ruto, it seems like he likes to implement IMF policy really hard on his people. And rather than actually trying to bring new radical ideas and new partners on the table, like many African countries are doing now, you don't have to choose between Russia and the US. You can have both on the table, including China, including European unions, and take the best out of it. But Ruto chose another way, the way to blindly support US imperialism, both in Palestine, in Haiti. And this imperialism will have repercussions here, because when you open the door for the snake to come in the house, then the snake is in the house and you have to choose. The first one is to leave the house, or the second one is to front the snake.
Big sentiments. I was hoping I'll have final word with Thomas, but now I need to have another final word. So, no. I have Nanfi giving final word. So Derek, final word on gang for today. We have had so many topics.
Yeah, we've had so many topics, but maybe I feel maybe you are the safe one to conclude. Yeah, I'll speak to Namugongo. I have been covering Namugongo for the last 8 years, and I've been very religious in terms of every matters there. I would be there. I would go in advance, like a week or something, and I feel. It is a place where all our energies need to be pulled in terms of government security and things like that. I know of very many times when I covered there, and everyone was on their tenterhooks, especially during that time of terrorism and stuff, terrorist attacks in the country. But it's more calm this time around. I've not heard of anything like that, and I hope that the country is going to enjoy this time around. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Wants to
just
pay a tribute to someone getting married.
Yes, to our regular guest, Honorable Chairman Mao Nobat, and his Beatrice. They're having their
wedding when we have Namugongo.
No, to remember.
Congratulations to them.
Yes.
Thank you, listeners.
Some of us are traveling to
the wedding.
Some of us are traveling to Tegot in Omoro
for the wedding.
For Mao's
Thank
wedding.
you, listeners of the Capital Gang. Thank you, Thomas Lesarve, for comments on gang. Thank you, Derek Wandera, Namfka, Marianne, Honorable Ssemujju, Honorable Mugara, Ofonopondo, thank you so much. Thank you, Star Cafe, for powering the gang. I am Oscar Semoyamsoke, and I shall see you next week.